Hello YouTube, my name is Billy and welcome back to my kitchen. Tonight we're going to be doing some much needed comfort food. This weather is just freezing cold outside and we are now thankfully all recovering from being sick. And we're going to be making cheese enchiladas with a red enchilada sauce, and we're going to top those with a queso sauce and a chili. Right here I've got one avocado that I've opened up, and I'm just going to take a fork and just kind of mash that up. I'm the only one in the house that likes the avocado, so I'm not going to make very much. And I'm just going to mash that up. And I'm going to put about about half a cap of lime juice in there, and that'll keep it from turning dark while I'm preparing the rest of the food. And just a little sprinkle of salt and a little sprinkle of pepper. I tend to keep my guacamole pretty simple because I love avocado. I could eat it by itself. Okay, and then we're just going to set that aside because the lime juice will keep that from turning dark. All right. Now, in this pot, I have just a can of refried beans. I'm going to go ahead and put that on the stove. And I'm also, right here, I've got a skillet with some canola oil, and I'm going to go ahead and get that to medium, and we're going to go ahead and start. When that gets hot, we're going to get our corn tortillas ready. You have to put your corn tortillas in the oil. Otherwise they're gonna break and fall apart. They won't do what you need to do. We're gonna be doing 6. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. And we're just gonna give that a minute while I'm getting everything else ready. You can stop. Okay, once your oil is pretty warm, you're going to take your corn tortilla and you're going to slowly dip it in there, and then you're just going to work your spatula around, and you're only going to leave it in there for a second, just long enough for it to get hot and lubricated with the oil, and then you're going to take it right up. It does not take long at all. You definitely do not want to get your grease too hot, because if you do, when you put them in, well, you're just going to have a tortilla chip. Now I went ahead and started the oven to preheat to 350 degrees because everything else is going to go pretty quickly. Okay, we're going to go ahead and turn that off. The last one. Okay, now, these are still extremely hot, so we're going to let those cool down for just a second while we prepare our cheese sauce. And you just need a medium-sized saucepan. We'll just turn that right back on. And you're going to get 1 can of cheddar cheese condensed soup. Dump that in. All right, you want 1 can of milk. All right, you're going to dump that in. All right, get a whisk. And you don't need this to, you just want this hot and break up the whole blob of cheese goo. Now I always like to add additional cheese that I've grated myself to that. And I just eyeball it. This is just sharp cheddar cheese that I've done myself. And I'm just going to go ahead and just sprinkle that in. Probably about 1.5 cups. Okay, and then we're just going to kind of give that a toss. And once the cheese is completely melted and it's a smooth and creamy sauce, you're ready to use it. Now, we're just going to let that sit there and get hot. It won't take long because that burner was already on. Now, right here, I'm going to get a baking dish. All right, now you're going to have to be very careful because these are still extremely hot. My hands are used to a lot of heat, so all right, now what I've done is I've taken 1 block of sharp cheddar cheese and just taken about 1 centimeter and just sliced them like that. Now, if you don't have the block cheese, you can definitely use shredded cheese. I just find this is a lot easier. And you're gonna put your block of cheese and you're just gonna roll the tortilla up around that and you're gonna slide it to the end. Another reason I like to use this block cheese is because it helps your tortillas stay in shape. I've been making enchiladas and Mexican food for years, and because we love it, Mexican food. But when you're using the grated cheese, you tend to run into the problem of your tortillas kind of wanting, they don't want to stay. But when you use the block cheese like that, now if you were going to do ground beef and cheese, I would probably take your knife and cut this in half and then you would have enough room to add your ground meat and then some cheese as well. I wouldn't use this whole amount if you were going to add meat in there. But I find that when you roll it around that that block cheese, it stays, and it's great. It's a lot easier. Okay. Oven is ready. If you don't leave your corn tortillas in the oil long enough, they will crack and break, and then you're gonna have a mess. Okay, so we're gonna leave those right there. That's exactly what I want. Now we're gonna come back over here to the stove. You can stop for a minute. Okay, once your cheese is completely dissolved and you've got a nice little sauce there, we're just gonna take that off the heat for a moment, and then we're gonna come back over here to our enchiladas. You're gonna wanna get a ladle, and you're just gonna spoon the queso right over the top. And make sure you get kind of down around the edges of that way. I mean, they do have oil on them, so they won't stick, but you just want to get some extra goodness on there. Okay, and you're not going to use all of that. And what you don't use, you can actually, you could dip tortillas in that, or you could even add a can of Rotel to that, and you got the most amazing queso ever. All right, and then what I've got here this is just a can of chili, and I'm not going to use all of this. I'm actually just going to take a spoon, and I'm just going to spoon that right over the top. And typically I just go kind of down the middle. And then just kind of work it out. Okay, and that's good. Now all you're gonna do, now if you wanted to, you could sprinkle more cheese on top of that, but I'm not going to do that because with the cheese sauce that I made, and there's cheese inside, they're plenty cheesy. So I'm gonna put this in a 350-degree oven, and that's gonna cook in there for about 30 minutes, just until everything's hot and the cheese inside the tortillas are completely melted. Okay, now now that we've got the enchiladas in the oven, I'm going to show you how I do my Mexican rice. Basically, all I do is I get a can of red enchilada sauce and some minute rice. I don't like the prepared stuff because it's either too spicy or it's too bland, but I've done this myself a couple of times, and it's really been a success, and everyone likes it. So that's what we're gonna do. And I'm just gonna open the can of red enchilada sauce. Okay, and in this bowl, I have 1 cup of rice, and I'm gonna use equal parts. So, one cup of liquid, 1 cup of rice. All right, we're gonna just dump that in. Now I will tell you, it will take a little bit longer for the rice to cook this way than if you were just using water or chicken broth, but it's really good. So, all right, you're just gonna heat this up until it comes to a boil, just like you would with the water or the chicken broth. And it can go on a high heat because the goal is for it to boil or get hot. And then you're gonna dump this in, you're gonna take it off the heat and let it set until it's completely done. And it will take a little bit longer than, you know, if you used water, because the enchilada sauce is a little thicker. And it takes a little bit longer to absorb into the rice. You can stop. Okay, once the enchilada sauce came to a boil, I just dumped the rice in there, and I've taken it off the heat and just set the lid on there, and it's just gonna sit like that until it's time to eat, because it'll take you know, quite a while for the rice to soften up and for the enchilada sauce to absorb. I mean, if you were just making plain white rice, it would take 5 minutes, but with the enchilada sauce, it takes a little bit longer. Okay, it's been 30 minutes and the timer on the oven just went off, so I'm gonna come over here really quick and just check on the rice. And if you look closely, it's got a really nice, perfect looking Mexican rice look to it. And as long as it just kind of fluffs around with a fork and it's tender, you know it's done. All right, we're gonna leave the lid on that. And now we're going to check on the beans, which I know they're done. All right, put that over here. Okay, and now for the enchiladas. You'll know that they're done, and it may not take, if you get closer, if you look down in the oven and you can see how everything's melted and it's all bubbling, you know they're done. So we're gonna go ahead and turn that off. Now be very careful, because not only is it extremely hot, but it can splatter if you're not careful. Okay, that's it.